one button done up.
I'm very relaxed, as you can tell. I've been stretching.
Good roll, mate.
Yeah, we're rolling from mate. So fuck, it's been a while since we've caught up. Last time was what, in the battalion, or do we get to see what you were?
Actually, I think I saw you randomly in the airport once. I think it's in the airport years ago. Do you remember?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, lots happens from 1RR days. You went on to 2 Commando, and spent how many years were you there, mate?
About 8 years. Yeah. So I did another 3 trips with 2 Commando.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Afghan, all of them?
Yeah, Afghan, yeah.
Nice.
I don't know what it'd be like, because that was the original. That was the new iteration of that was the 2 Commando selection course, wasn't it? One of the in the early days.
Yeah. 2011 I did selection, yeah. But we pretty much went from that after the year of Rio, then next year onto the trip, rotation 18, and that was pretty hectic. So yeah, pretty much straight into the deep end after 6 months in the unit.
What's it like? Is it going from one unit? So you start off. I mean, when you first join 1RA, you're not king of the shit. You're shit of the kings. Well, they're your shit of the. And then you go through 1RA. You finally get to a place where you're confident in your own abilities, and then you go down to as a proficient soldier in 1RA. Then you move down to 2 Commando, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. It's absolutely daunting. I remember even just getting through Rio and then getting into the unit, into the company, and even though a lot of the guys from 1RA that I did selection with were in the same company as myself, it's very daunting going straight into the company and being expected to perform at a higher standard. And it is quite daunting, and it takes a couple of years of being there before you kind of get used to that. Even after you finish Rio, because even after you finish Rio, you still don't really know half the stuff that you're going to end up knowing by the end of your time as a commando. But it's daunting, but you just got to get through it, I guess.
And then going through doing some of these trips that happened, there's some pretty. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment, but they were back in the quite. There's still quite a lot of kinetic activity happening on those trips, eh?
100%. Some of the jobs that we were doing with the GDA were probably some of the most kinetic jobs that have been done by commandos over in Afghanistan. So yeah, it was especially going from my experience in Uruzgan with 1RA to then going into Helmand and Kandahar provinces for all of our jobs. A big eye opener, and every single time you go out there is basically kinetic. It's.
What's it like on the other side? So remember, I mean, it was Camp Russell was the SF base, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What's it like on the other side of the fence? We always dreamt of there was going to be there was lobster and beers and everyone was just kicking back.
It's a bit more relaxed. Especially when you go to Green Beans or whatever and get a brew, and then some pogue is harassing you, giving you shit. You can go to Camp Russell and just and hide from them because they can't get in. So, which happened quite a few times, but it's good. The facilities are good. You don't have to wait 3 days to get on the phone to call home. There's plenty of phones for everyone. There's internet for everyone. As you remember with the 1RA, we'd be away on patrol for weeks at a time, and then you'd get back, and you often have to wait hours and hours to actually get on the phone to call home because the rest of the brigade or whatever is you're waiting in line behind all them. But the infrastructure and facilities are made much better on the outside of the fence.
Sure. Oh, mate, I used to remember the phone calls I used to listen to when we used to sit in the and you remember that, or was it? It was around. Was it Ramadan? They do. And then they did the celebration. There's all these dudes running out shooting AKs in the air, and then I heard this non-combatant speaking to his missus on the phone, like, "Yeah, we're just taking rounds, babe. I've got to go." And we're like, "What are you talking about, mate? It's celebratory fire." I was like, I can't believe this. I can't. And you would hear people purposely leaving their miss. Like, I gotta go, babe, and then hang up the phone to keep them stressed as fuck. And you're like, what are you talking about, mate? Like, pick up the phone.
Oh, see you, Keegan. Hello, mate. Had enough.
No, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You see people deliberately misleading people back home, making them out to believe that more's going on for them than not. But, you know, it's one of the frustrations, I guess, of going over there and doing the job and going on patrol, and other people are taking credit for other people's actions, I guess. But, yeah.
Oh, mate, let them have
Yeah.
it. If they've got no other stories, it's
Yeah, that's it.
you spend your whole time behind the fucking wall doing fuck all, and you got to tell some. Mind you, if you weren't 100% sure, if you're brand new and you heard dudes fucking idiots outside shooting AKs, it was only a matter of time till they started fucking shooting Australians anyway.
Yeah.
So the risk was still there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And then going,
What's the move?
because it's sort of carried on over back home. You can understand that the SF community being fairly tight-lipped, just blanketing. But there's fucking idiots getting around at the moment, sort of showboating and carrying on about sort of stuff. And you can see where people want to sort of separate it.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too much into all of that, but yeah, no, I definitely, a lot of people have trouble, I think, moving on and finding purpose outside of the army, and I think those people are the worst ones that are kind of stuck in that mentality of still being over there, and they can't really think of anything else and they can't move forward. They can't find purpose in anything else in their life, but it's definitely frustrating.
Speaking of purpose, mate, you got some purpose hanging up on the wall. I can't help but look at it. And for anybody else that's just doing the audio file, there's about 1,200 bikinis hanging up on the back wall. So what happened? You got out, you transitioned out, moved on to finding some purpose. How did was it, without me putting words in your mouth, was it your idea, your missus' idea, you jumped on with her? Who was the brains of the operation?
Well, we're both kind of two halves of the same brain. Like, my missus is the creative side, and she's the one that comes up with the patterns, the design, the branding, the content, and that kind of thing. And myself, I'm more of the numbers side of the business, the analytics and the marketing, and that's what I enjoy, and it works really well. Obviously, the products are all her designs, and I just work in the numbers and the business and the accounting side of things. So the original idea was hers. Like, we started the business when I was still working full time, and we had the business for about 3 years before I discharged. And having an e-commerce business was kind of the perfect type of business to start up while I was still serving, because it was a type of business that I could work on after hours, after work, and on the weekend. Didn't have to be managed 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It's online. It's the website's always up. Customers can always shop. And it gave us the opportunity to scale up and grow the business while I was still having a supplementary income until, come time of discharge, to then come out and then want to work on the business full time. So the initial idea was kind of both of ours. We both wanted a business. Sarah had previously had a hair salon that she owned and sold for a bit of a profit, and I wanted a business that I could work on a daily basis. So we thought e-commerce, I have a love for software and technology and numbers, and e-commerce kind of fit that void pretty well. Sarah could work on it with a creative flair, come up with products and designs, and I could do everything on the numbers and analytical side of things in the business as well, and I could work with software, and so it was just a perfect fit.
How is it working with your missus? Is there a hierarchy? Is there a point where you're like, mate, I'm in charge, or is she like, no, get back in the kitchen because I'm running this show?
We always have arguments. The direction of where we want to go with the business. Over the years, we've just had to come to be able to work together and go through things as a discussion rather than an argument, because we're on the same team at the end of the day. But Sarah has freedom to do whatever she wants with the creative side of the business and the branding and the direction that she thinks we should be going with that side of thing, because I don't know the first thing about fashion or fashion design or what women want to wear. I wouldn't know. So she has the creative kind of lead on everything, and everything else is discussion, I guess. And we've worked that over the last 6 years of running the business. That the only way for us to move forward properly is to discuss everything rather than turn it into an argument. But absolutely, in the early days, it was often an argument of this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, and then we'd clash. But we've had to learn to work together, I guess, over the years.
Sounds like it's working anyway, mate. How big's your company now? Have you got how many employees you got?
We got a couple. We only really work on an outsourced model, so we do have employees that all work remotely. But all of our logistics is run out of a logistics centre in Sydney, so a third-party centre. So it's worked for us quite well. That we'll have days where we do a couple hundred orders a day. We might have days where we're doing 20, 30, or 50 orders a day. But the good thing about outsourcing that logistical business model is that when we do have those days of a couple hundred orders, we're not in charge of the staff to make sure those orders are picked, packed, and dispatched. That's the job of the outsourced logistics centre. So we've tried to keep our businesses kind of lean as possible with minimal employees. So we have a couple of outsourced staff that do customer service, and again, they're working on I suppose a flexible working, so they might do more hours one week if it's busier, or less hours the next week. So it's worked quite well for us to be able to scale up during our busy times and then scale back down during the off season, or when we're switching between, say, the North American market and back to the Australian New Zealand market, because the summer at the moment, for example, we're just coming out of the North American summer and the busy time over there, and we're switching our marketing back to New Zealand and Australia. So during these off seasonal times in between is when we kind of scale back down again, get things ready for the next season, and then start pushing up again. So it's worked pretty well for us, and it means that we can keep all of that cost proportionate to our revenue, and we don't have these high fixed costs eating into our margins.
100%, mate. I love it. I mean, everything you've just said is the perfect advice piece for diggers getting out who want to start their own business. Try and start it while you're in, while you've still got security and the defence forces still making sure there's a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Validate your business, make sure it's going to work, and then get out and start it, and use everything that's elastic, so you're only paying for what you need at the time. That's fucking golden advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's something Keegan's working on at the moment, trying to build together freelancer lists so that we don't have to employ 1,000 videographers and photographers and content providers, so that if money starts to slow down or dry up, then we're not fucked.
Yeah.
And because I've seen that model way too many times. I mean, it's the charity model is exactly that, especially in the veteran space. It's get a massive grant, hire 5,000 people, run out of money, go back to the government and tell them you're about to go under, blackmail them for more money, and they just keep cutting checks to keep your doors open and you're not actually doing anything.
No, exactly right,
And technology's there too. What kind of firstly, before I go into the technology stuff, who do you you don't use Amazon? Who's your fulfillment center?
So
we give them a plug, or
of course it's called Inbanco in Moorebank. So we've done a case study with them as well as part of the growth of our business and success that we had outsourcing our logistics to them. They also did a case study on our business to show this outsourced business model, especially when it comes to logistics, is one of the logistics and marketing are the biggest things in any e-commerce business. The biggest expenses and the biggest moving parts is logistics in e-commerce. So Inbanco in Moorebank is literally around the corner from Holsworthy. When I was at Holsworthy for 3 years running this business, it was literally around the corner, so I could pop in there, have a discussion or a meeting with them on a Friday afternoon after work, and shoot through things that we need to change, work on software and how we're going to use software to our advantage to, I suppose, automate workflows and things within the business that can be automated with software. So they were great, and we still use them to this day.
Yeah, right. What about the international stuff? They do it all?
Yeah, they do everything. So since we moved to them, from when we first started in the first 6 months, we were shipping to Australia only. This is 6 years ago. We first started shipping to New Zealand. So Sarah was running down to the post office on a daily basis, sending orders out. And then, I had my first shoulder surgery, and after one day of helping her pack orders after being home from work, I said, this is shit. We need to outsource this. And within like a week or two of that, we had at Moorebank and at outsourced our logistics. And when we did, it opened up the door for us to use freight carriers and logistical companies such as DHL, USPS, FedEx, which we didn't have access to as a regular consumer going to the post office. And that then meant that we opened up the floodgates for us to sell internationally, not like outside of New Zealand as well. And then the North American market is massive, right? It's our biggest market. It's even bigger for us than Australia because of that logistics centre that we can ship to those other countries, and we can get things to North America within 3 to 5 business days.
That's sick. And how, mate? I'm going to turn this podcast into a fucking pick your brain session. How do they compare with Amazon? Because Amazon's just so cheap. Like I'm running numbers on fulfillment of anything. I mean, especially when you're small. Like we don't do a lot of merch because it's not really our primary focus. But Amazon fucking smokes Australia Post on pricing.
Yeah, they do. And we have tested. We did send some stock to an Amazon fulfillment center in America years ago to test that out. To qualify for Amazon Prime shipping, you need to have your stuff in the Amazon fulfillment center. So that was a big thing we wanted to test out. But to be honest, Amazon is a behemoth of e-commerce, but their software is lacking, and any stock that we sent to the Amazon fulfillment center, that stock we couldn't sell that stock on our website anymore because we couldn't fulfill orders through our website from the Amazon fulfillment center because they are only fulfilling things that are sold through Amazon through their fulfillment center. So
I don't think that's still the case.
It might be changed now.
Yeah.
But at the time when we tested it out, because our website is hosted on Shopify, and majority of our traffic coming from Facebook and Instagram through paid advertising. Any orders that are made through Shopify would be sent through to NetSuite, the system that's run by Inbanco, that third-party logistics center, who would then dispatch the orders, providing tracking information back to the customers. But when we were testing Amazon, the stock was in their fulfillment center, and that at the time that meant for us that was stock we couldn't sell on any other sales channel. We couldn't sell it on our website because that was inventory which was now separate from the inventory.
Yeah, so it's dead. Yeah. And how this new company you've got, they're fairly decent on price. I'm going to have a look at them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're really good on price. They they offer everything through Australia Post, Star Trek, DHL, FedEx, USPS, all the main carriers. And the good thing about them is they have a software system and an algorithm that'll, as an example, if we're shipping an item express to America, their system will then pick out of all the freight carriers that are shipping to where that customer is. There might be DHL, there might be FedEx, there might be USPS, they're all shipping express. Their least cost algorithm will pick the cheapest method to ship to that customer in the time frame that we specify based on the KPIs that we've given them, and then it'll then ship to them. And using that method, least cost, which saves us money because we still get it to the customer in the time frame that we've told the customer we'll get to them, but it's picking the shipping carrier which provides the time frame at the lowest cost. And carriers can be, it's not always, as you guys would know, it's certain counties and states in America might be cheaper or more expensive using DHL, and vice versa for a different area. So that algorithm that they have developed in Banco saves us a lot of money because, like it'll pick the least cost shipping method. And that's something that we couldn't do with Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah, mate, it's still something I've got to keep looking into. One of the girls that works with us, Jess, has been looking at Amazon, and she was 99% confident we can. I mean, I just want to hold all of our stock in their warehouse anyway, but obviously everything's going to be sold through the website. We're not selling charity merch on an Amazon sales platform. It's a fucking waste of time. But, it looks like it'll be all right. The only thing I am worried about is presentation when it turns up. Like shit from Amazon, it's just rammed in a box, covered in bubble wrap, and there it goes.
Yeah.
And you kind of want, you lose, like, for what we're trying to push anyway, when merch isn't a volume product for us, it's more like you want people to be happy when they're opening it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why, I mean, it's easy to keep them happy when you're doing it yourself, but you're fucked if I want to hand wrap 50 shirts a day.
Well, and that's the thing. The company that we're using for logistics now is not our first logistics center we've used. We've used other ones in Western Sydney, that had done the exact same thing. We'd have products arriving to customers that had dirty footprints and full of dust, and wasn't. And that's a representation of our company to the customer. They don't care. The customer doesn't care what the logistics centre has done wrong. They only care how they receive their package. So that's happened to us as well. And through trial and error, we found this company that we've been with now for a few years. Everything's perfect. Everything's clean. Everything's arrives to the customer as it's supposed to be presented. We don't have those issues anymore. And that has been something we've had as a problem in the past. But yeah, and that's the problem. Some of the really cheap logistics centres, they don't look after your stock.
Yeah. Going on that, so the being the outward facing point where you can present this high quality merchandise or product to your customers. Yeah. I went into a suit shop, and I normally go into a suit shop and it's like, what are those cheap ones? We don't have to name them, but you walk in there and you get a suit off the rack, and some chicks say
Vinny's, I think you're talking about, mate.
Yeah, op shop for rugby piss ups, and you go in there and they're like, yeah, here's a suit, wear that, you're fine. I went up to Darwin, I was like, fuck, I'm done here. I went to a dining in night, and yeah, and I was like, I'm fucking done. They said, oh, you need to wear a dinner suit, and I was like, yeah, this will be good in Darwin. And I went to this shop, mate, and there was this young dude, 19 years old. And it was like old English, leather seats, whiskey. He's like, sir, called me sir, the whole suits. It was phenomenal, mate. Absolutely phenomenal. From start to finish, I'm like, I'm going to buy 2 suits off this fucking dude. And going from that and walking in and spending $9 at a coffee shop and sitting on a fucking milk crate because it's Sydney fucking hipster. No, this is cool. I'm like, fuck you. Can we go back to sitting on some decent furniture, mate?
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the customer experience, isn't it? Like, as an example, when I was buying jewelry for Sarah through Tiffany & Co., the experience you get when you go to that shop, they give you champagne, they make you feel like you're a king, you know what I mean? And that's all part of the customer experience. And then translating that to our own customers is also a quite important thing for us, making sure every customer has a great experience. We're not selling $10,000 jewelry, but you can still do what you can to make the customer experience awesome. And if they don't have a great experience, then customer service, I suppose, picking up the slack where something like a logistics centre or Australia Post might have let down dropped the bundle a little bit. You've got to pick that up through customer service and customer recovery. So absolutely, it's the most important thing of the business. We wouldn't have a business without customers. It shows like you're going to go tell everyone about that story, about that time you were in Darwin in the suit shop, because it was such a great experience for you. And that's the impression that they've left on you probably years ago now, or whenever it was, is going to stay with you, and you're going to tell everyone about the shop. Because,
mate, there was like, I bought a dinner shirt, and he's like, dude, he said, he's like, oh, we'll iron it for you here. Don't worry about it. We'll get it all pressed, clean, ready. We can deliver it. We'll get it all done by 5 o'clock this afternoon if you want. Got me made.
It was Chrissy suit.
Hey,
what do you mean he's got to iron it for you before?
No, it was a winged. What is it? Like a dinner suit, winged collar.
I don't know, mate.
Boats, mate. Fucking James Bond.
I went to a 5-star restaurant in Sydney the other day with this on, mate. So don't talk to me about winged suits.
Winged collared shirts, mate.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the impression that company has left on you is going to. You're now an advocate for that company. You're going to tell everyone about that company and the great experience you had. And we're trying to emulate the same kind of thing with our customers, so we want all of our customers to become advocates for our brand, and make sure everyone has an awesome experience like you did at the suit shop in Darwin, So you will tell everyone about that.
Yeah. So on that, your customer service, so you inbound customer stuff, you outsource that as well, or did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you set that up?
So we use a program called Zendesk. We've previously used Freshdesk, and looking at the moment to change to another one called Gorgias, just because of the integration with Shopify, our e-commerce platform. But because our logistics centre in Sydney is everything's cloud-based, all of our inventory, all of our order information is all accessible online. We actually had a lady from New Zealand. She's been working with us for years. We've never met her. She does our customer service. She can log into Zendesk remotely. and she can log into the warehouse management system remotely. And it's all, we can run everything through the online systems without actually meeting any of these people because of the technology and the software that we use. So Zendesk is what we use for our customer service. I think you guys are using HubSpot or something. So it's similar to a CRM-based software tool, and then that'll integrate with Shopify, our e-commerce platform, and then she can access the warehouse management system as well because it's all online.
Yeah, nice. Now I've had a look at Zendesk, but I don't think it was a full CRM. It was just customer service.
Yeah,
which is obviously what you're after.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about like their messaging though? Like, do you ever get this? Is my biggest fear ever in any business was to outsource customer service and then have someone offshore like managing it, going, "Hey, I've got a question." It's a question that takes someone 5 seconds to think about if they're one of us, but they're going to get a response from a dude in the Philippines. It's like, "Hey, I got the wrong size," and the response is completely fucking off topic. Like, has that ever been an issue?
Yeah, definitely it has. And when we first looked to bring on multiple customer service staff, that was definitely an issue for us. And Sarah will, audit Zendesk and make sure the customers are happy. Customers can rate their experience with a customer service agent. So if there's a downward trend of a customer service agent not performing or something like that, we can audit their responses to customers and then pull them in line. But that's definitely happened. That's definitely been a big, when we first moved from running the customer service ourselves to outsourcing it, that was the biggest concern, is that exact same thing is going to happen. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to pass off certain aspects of the business to other people, otherwise you're never going to grow. And we had the same mentality with the logistics initially. How can we make sure the logistics center is going to represent our brand? And we've been through half a dozen logistics centers before we found one that was a good fit, and just trial and error. There's the same with staff, making sure that they are aware of how you want them to interact with customers and how you want them to treat them. If they don't, you pull them in line, give them another chance. If not, you can get rid of them. And with the
that's where we've gone wrong. We pull them in line and give them another chance.
Yeah,
I see.
We just fire people.
Well, don't give them another chance, whatever.
We got diggers as volunteers, mate. They get smacked and then that's it. You're out the door. No, we haven't.
No, we haven't got any volunteers.
In my last, we haven't got them either. No, we got a couple. Past businesses, I was on speed dial with fucking Fair Work. I mean, that was my biggest issue coming out of the military as a full track, where it's like they're not, well, some people, diggers are still motivated by money, but most of them are there for love of the job and purpose and stuff. And they fuck up, you smack them around, or you get angry or whatever. I mean, obviously the military probably doesn't teach the best retraining or leadership in that aspect, but that was my mindset. And I came out, started a restaurant, and mate, chefs are fucked to deal with. Yeah. Well, the ones that we had were anyway. And it got to the point where I'm like, I've had a go here. There's no more second chances. If you're doing this well, some of these guys should have been fired a while ago. But it was like, all right, you fucked up.
Well, exactly right. And if someone doesn't resonate with your company and they're not presenting themselves the way you want them to your customers, then you're going to get rid of them. And I suppose that's an advantage of us using the outsourced business model, is that it's easier to get rid of someone who's not performing, and it's easier to reward someone that is performing. But if they're not performing, it's easy to get rid of them, and that's why we stick to that model, I guess. But it's not like with hospitality; it's not possible. But
I mean, hospitality and what we're doing now with mental health and technology is two completely different industries. Yeah. Plus, thankfully, I mean, Mex's title / role is like setting the culture, and that is a big one, especially with veterans. Yeah. Set the culture right at the start, and people come in and they don't want to fuck up.
Exactly.
Like people actually, I mean, that's part of the purpose building as well. If you give people good culture at a company, they'll come in and they'll want to be part of it regardless. Whereas chefs, mate, they are there for a paycheck, 9 to 5, turning up high as a kite, cooking, buddy. I don't even want to go into it. Probably get sued for sending the food out that those boys used to send it. Your missus used to come in a bit, actually. I remember I started tracking. So I didn't know you super well when you went down to Sydney. Yeah. But I know your missus used to come into the shop.
She used to talk about your cafe all the time.
Sorry, what was that?
She used to talk about going to your cafe all the time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was good. I used to love that joint. Yeah. that went downhill after staffing issues. Also, should have had elastic staffing models.
What's
there.
the fucking common trend here, mate?
I don't know. Staff, mate. Staff, not me.
100%, mate. You are literally Donald Trump, mate. You should get on the Apprentice.
Nah, mate. Don't. I mean, this is a good advice point. I don't like giving advice, but young diggers out there, if you want to start a business, e-commerce is where to go. Don't start a fucking restaurant, whatever you do.
Yeah.
They're painful, mate. You'll work 9 days a week for the rest of your life and be struggling to make minimum wage for yourself.
Yeah. And that's the trade-off, like you wouldn't be able to start in a hospitality business while still being in the army. And I really think if I had started this business with Sarah after I was out of the army, it wouldn't have worked because it took us a good 6 to 12 months to actually turn a profit and to know what we were doing. Without that supplementary income, it wouldn't have worked. So it's probably, and we wouldn't have been able to do any other business apart from e-commerce that had that flexibility whilst I was still working full time. But it's not everyone's cup of tea, I guess. But you definitely need to have some way to mitigate risk whilst you want to start the business. In my opinion, to be able to still have an income in at the same time, so you don't pulling your hair out, stressed about money all the time. You know what I mean?
And you set yourself up with a work-life balance. Obviously not so much work-life when you're still in because you're at work and then coming home and then going back to work. But when you get out, you would have noticed that, hey, I used to do a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
So now that time's free.
Yeah.
I don't have to be slaving away over an e-commerce business 8 days a week.
So
it sounds like the perfect model, mate.
Yeah. So what have you done wrong, mate? This is the Instructions Sold Separately podcast we talk about. I want to know what you fucked, in your business where you're like, fuck, I wish I didn't do that. Or even during your career, mate. I mean, there's boys that listen to this that are all budding young diggers in the battalions, mate, that want to join and go west. What are the big lessons you've learned in your life, mate? Because you've come so far and you're a successful business dude now, mate.
Yeah. Well, I guess, especially with the business, is not going all in. It's been one of the biggest, I suppose, pros, but it's also been one of the biggest cons for myself with the business is risk taking. In the army, you're rewarded to take risk, and you have that mentality of all in all the time. And I had that mentality with the business as well, and it allowed us to get to where we are today by taking big risks. But it also has its downside of when things didn't work out, the risks and the stakes were so much higher. So learning to balance risk taking, which is rewarded in the army, but in business you can't always take too many risks, I guess. You need to mitigate risk and I suppose not go all in financially, especially until you've, I suppose, tested the waters and then see where you want to take things. So that's a big thing for us, I guess. As an example, a few times we manufacture all of our things in bulk in China because we have our own brand. So a few times we've had orders of production go through, a couple of thousand pieces have arrived at the warehouse, and there's been a manufacturing fault. But we're committed. We've now got $10,000 or $20,000 worth of stock that we can't sell because it wasn't made correctly or something. But in that example, we could mitigate that risk, I guess, by putting in smaller quantities initially until the production was squared away and we were happy with everything that was getting done. And then having more systems in place to keep manufacturers accountable. And then one thing we implemented after that lesson was quality control. So we'd pay a third-party company to go to our manufacturers in China and do a 10% check of everything. I suppose it's a double-edged sword, this risk-taking. That's one of the big things, I guess.
Yeah, mate, that's something I've got to work on too.
Yeah.
I love going all in.
Yeah.
I like gambling. I'm a big fan of gambling, mate, in any aspect of my life, mate. So
yeah.
I mean that's the best thing about having a charity. We've got a board. We've got like dudes on that'll go, no, you can't risk. I mean the risk almost needs to be fucking zero when you're dealing with donated money. But my last two businesses, mate, it was part of the fun, I guess, was go, hey, I'm gonna have a crack. Well, the first one anyway, I had no idea. I was just like, yeah, here's all my money, take it, buy me a restaurant. Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed with this, mate, especially when you talk, like, because you've held the reins pretty hard with with this, and especially financial range, mate. When we've got external agencies that come in, they're just like they're throwing zeros on the end of things, and we're like, whoa, it's not a business, dude. This is charity money. People have donated money.
Yeah.
You're working for a charity. They're like, oh no, you just give us, unless you pull them up, they just treat it like another fucking business, mate.
Well, and that's a big thing, I guess. Is another point that what you just mentioned is, as soon as you're a business or a company, you're going to other agencies, trying to get them to pay them to do a job, whether it's a marketing company or whether it's I don't know, logistics or whatever. A lot of them will take advantage, and consultants especially will, try and charge you, throw an extra zero on the end because they know you're a company, and a lot of that we learned the hard way as well. Like we paid a lot of money to consultants that we learned nothing from, and we didn't appreciate our own skills in the business, and we didn't have enough trust, I suppose, in what we were doing that was right. Because we would always think, okay, a consultant can help us do better, because they're a consultant, right? That's why we paid them 20 grand. Wrong. No, you have to have trust in you doing what you're doing as being right, because people will come onto your business and take advantage and try and just take money off the table, and then they'll fuck off, and then you'll be out of pocket, and no one wins for them.
Yeah, it's the strategy tactics. Everyone offers strategy. And there's very few people like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. This is execution phase stuff, mate. You're dead like, what are you going to do? Like, we're going to, how many marketing, social media managers and all these sort of shit that is like, what are you fucking talking about? They're just putting zeros on the end of stuff and like, we've already got a social media matrix. Thanks, mate.
I was watching all those presentations yesterday's podcast, and I think he hit a few things on the head with that. Is that it's really important as a business owner to sit in all the positions in the business. So when someone does come along from an agency and you want to start outsourcing that to an agency, you can call bullshit when they're saying that this is what needs to be done. As an example, I've always run all the Facebook ads and paid advertising for our business, and then it got to the point that I was just getting too busy doing that, so I was looking to outsource that. If I never ran those ads or never worked in all of the positions in our business, the same as with logistics and packing orders, we wouldn't know when someone else is talking shit to call them on that, because we've never done that job in the business. I think that's vitally important in any business. And I don't know, Hassan, what do you reckon?
100%, mate. I'll start with the first business I'd worked in heaps of hospitality before I joined the army, traveling around the world, and doing front of house stuff. I was all over. So when we started this restaurant, when we didn't bring consultants in, but the crossover is I knew how to train the fuck out of the people at the front. I knew to pull them up on all the small stuff. Yeah. Kitchen guys, I hired this head chef who, he's employed to work in the business, but he's also got to build the kitchen team. Yeah. And I just had to take everything at face value. Yeah. And he had 5 dudes on a day when, looking back at it now, I could have done it with 1.5, maybe 2. Yeah. For one full-time dude and a couple of casuals, we would have been good to go. The big one, that crosses over to now. Like with Swiss 8, we had a mutual acquaintance that came and worked for us for a little bit, that loved throwing around a lot of strategy that had no fucking real grip to it. Was bring on this social media marketer, and thank fuck, mate, I've done a lot of social media and pay-per-click advertising. So she came on and she's like, I'll do consulting. I'm like, no, we don't need a consultant. Here's what we want to do. I need you to execute it. And the amount she wanted to charge, no shit, automated with software, which I'm 100% sure she was aware of and was using. She would have been paying subscriptions for software at about $12 a month. Yeah. Then charging us $600 a week for her to, and
that's a raw
no. Yeah. And they turn around and go, hey, so I'll build it out and build you a matrix and build you a plan of what you should be doing, and then you go and do all the content, you do the uploading, all the posting. I'm like, now we've done all of what you just said. How about you fuck off and I'll spend 15 minutes a month doing your job.
Save $6 a week,
100%. But they're in business in that way because there's companies out there that have never done it, like you said, and go, $600 a week, that's cheap, which long term it is if you've got a massive company. But
if you have a bigger, some of those consultants, the first thing they'll ask is how much you make, because they want to set prices on how much your revenue is, and it should be irrelevant how much we're making. It's the work that we want you to do and the KPIs we want you to meet. But you'll find a lot of those. I think that's a big red flag. If a consultant says how much you're making on a monthly basis before they give you a pricing structure, that's a red flag right there. We've had
Well, in the car industry, they call it a wood duck. So, do you know? So you walk in and you walk in the car yard and you're like, oh, I like that car. They don't put stickers on them, right? If there's no fucking label on, and like, oh, how much are you looking to spend?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, about 15 grand. They go around the back, they put 15 grand on the car, and they go, I've got a car here for 15 grand. You're like, fuck, it's called a wood duck, mate.
Mate, that's the Wolf of Wall Street model, mate. When you're negotiating anything, the person who puts a price on it first loses.
Yeah.
It's like it's all like my ex-wife used to work for an advertising agency.
Yeah.
She's a designer, and Ben, now our CTO, obviously he's done a bit of work with different tech companies, and the first thing they do in scoping meetings is go, "What's your budget?"
Yeah.
And I get it. If you're doing a campaign for NAB,
Yeah.
it's like, what's your budget? All right, we'll build some ads based on that $1 million budget you got. But they don't give a shit if they lose $1 million. You go in there as a small business and go, what's your budget? You're like, I don't know, I've got $50 in the bank. They're like, we'll take that, that'll do.
Yeah.
And they do $5 worth of work.
I know. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Same, exactly right. Like, and I've found it myself when I run ads. I'm invested because if those ads don't perform, it's only going to hurt myself and Sarah and our bottom line. Whereas with a consultant, they can spend whatever they want. And if the ads don't perform, they don't really care because they still want to get paid. And it's not their money that's being burnt in advertising. So, absolutely. I think you need to understand all the different aspects of your business and then be able to call bullshit on people that try and take advantage. And people make businesses out of taking advantage of other businesses that don't know what they're doing. And we're being hit by that as well, like I said, in the early days. If you don't learn quickly, then you'll get burnt and it can push you out of business. So I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, 100% agree, mate. 100% agree. Most small, again, don't like giving advice, but most small businesses, when they're ready, when they've got the budget to step up, you need to be outsourcing the grunt work first, not the strategy. Learn the strategy yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be an uneducated idiot running a big company if you're lucky enough to scale it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what, mate? Any the business is obviously humming now. Yeah. What were the big hurdles when you first got it going?
I suppose when we first started the business, we weren't selling swimwear. We were buying from the wholesalers and reselling other people's product. And that was for about the first 6 months of our business. We didn't make any money at all really in the first 6 months of our business. And it wasn't until Sarah come across some designs that she wanted to incorporate into swimwear that things started actually kicking off for us. And looking back now is because when we were selling wholesale products that someone else we were buying from wholesalers, we were competing on price because there were hundreds of other businesses in Sydney selling the same products at their retail shops, and we're trying to sell the exact same things on our website. And we're not unique. We're competing on price, and that's the only thing. And you don't want to run a business competing on price only. You need to, especially your brand, you have to be unique. And we didn't know that at the beginning, so it took 6 months or more for us to actually get our own products designed in swimwear that were unique, and they just took off because our customers couldn't get those products anywhere else but from our website. And when we discovered that and we learned that, we changed our entire business model from selling other people's products to only selling our own. And that was the defining point of our business. If we didn't discover that, then I dare say we wouldn't be in business today because we weren't making any money the first 6 months or more of business. But that comes down to trying and testing and finding what works. If we hadn't been trying and testing new things, we would never have discovered that and we'd be out of business.
Yeah. That was when I was first looking at different digital businesses to get up. I read Tim Ferriss' 4 Hour Work Week, and he was all about drop shipping. He's like, find a product that was a manufacturer. And there was when that kind of drop shipping boom was kicking off. Perfect way to just do a little bit of social media marketing, set up an online sales portal and drop ship someone else's stuff. But as soon as another bloke finds that same supplier, you are just competing on price and you control nothing else. And so, and that's, I guess. I mean, that some people might still be into that. There's absolutely no work involved, but there's fuck all money in it too. And when you do things like if you're competing on price, you're attracting cheapskates.
Yeah, 100%.
And as we know, cheapskates are like half the people we talk to every second day. They are just looking to have a whinge about anything to get money back. And I mean, not with us now, but it's not what you want. You want to compete on quality.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to be unique, and you need to be have quality. And especially with AliExpress and Alibaba nowadays, people can buy things on AliExpress without a minimum quantity purchase. So, like you said, you're competing against these dropshippers which had their heyday, but they might have tiny margins of only a couple of dollars profit per product, and it's not the race you want to be in. In my opinion.
Is that where you found your manufacturers now, through Alibaba?
Yeah, Alibaba, yeah.
How long did it take you to find a good one?
I probably go through at least half a dozen manufacturers in that field before we found ones that were acceptable for us. But this is also, especially in the early days, or even to this day, there are some manufacturers, their minimum order quantity might be a couple thousand pieces per style. And if we're releasing a collection of 30 new styles, it's a minimum of 30,000 pieces that we need to, and that's too much risk. It's well and truly a couple $100,000, if not more, for just one order. So initially, finding a supplier that was both good quality but also would accept a lower MOQ was.
Sorry, what's
minimum order quantity is MOQ. So a lot of big suppliers, they say, because they're also competing on price, and they make money through economies of scale, they have to ship out a lot of product to actually make any money. So they will say, we're not going to produce this for you unless you take 20,000 pieces, for example. If you can't meet that MOQ, you can't buy through that supplier. So we had to find a supplier in the early days that would take a lower MOQ, but would still produce custom products, which was a bit of juggling initially. And we got there after going through a few different suppliers and getting samples made and having the samples sent to us and that kind of thing. But that's a...
oh, mate, thank fuck for samples. We got these shirts made before I got... this is when I was looking at like building the model for still validating, and I was like, oh, we should get while we're waiting to like grow the brand or whatever, we just need shitloads of shirts because that's either give them away or sell them cheap just to get your brand out there. And we did. I found this place in Pakistan that the minimum order was 10,000. I was like, all right, it's about as high as we want to go because that's. And then they were going to be cheap, and I'm like, all right, had back and forth. And then I'm like, nah, fuck, you need to send me some samples first. So I paid him like $150, got 5 samples, one small up to 2XL.
Yeah.
They all turned up the same size. So I just had one had an S tag on it, one had an M tag, another tag. They are all the same size, mate. And the material, they meant to be that like Under Armour kind of high quality stuff. They turned up, they were just fucking heavy cotton.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, that would have been expensive.
Well, that would have been 50 grand or more down the drain at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, for some people, that's nearly fucking done, isn't it?
You're done.
Yeah.
One mistake and you're back to fucking. This is the big thing that I'm starting to learn now that I'm out of the army and actually starting to fucking engage with people is that business. I come in naive from the army because you could take people generally on their face value, like especially on the OR level, mate. Like guys would not fuck you over. Yeah. If they said they're going to do something, they will go and do it, and they will if they believed in it or whatever, man. They'll back you up, right?
Yeah. And
then we got in to start making some phone calls with companies, and I realized. To be honest, mate, nobody gives a fuck about your cause. And I'll say that in regards to veterans, and I'll be blatantly honest about it, mate. Nobody gives a fuck about veterans, and I'm not being a snowflake. Nobody also gives a fuck about single dads contextually unless you're a single dad. Nobody cares if you're a woman of domestic violence unless you're the woman being domestically abused. So it's all contextual, I suppose, and the argument was that my naivety coming forward saying I've got this amazing product with this particular group of people.
Yeah.
But you're trying to pitch to people with no context, and they just do not give. I think that's the biggest one is me being naive. They don't give a shit about your issue as much as you do, mate.
No, that's completely true, and that's what we've found with 90% of other businesses that we've dealt with is that, and initially you do take them on face value. You do take everything they say to be gospel, and you a salesperson will give you a pitch, and you say, well, this is what they said they're going to do, so they're going to do it, and they want $5,000 a month or whatever to do it, but they said they're going to do this, so that's going to mean that everything's going to be great because, and they don't deliver. Salespeople tell you what you want to hear, and you get burnt, and it only takes a few times to get burnt hard and to be out of business. So I think it's a really big thing. You can't take people on face value because people will lie. Salespeople will tell you what you want to hear, and they won't deliver. And I suppose you need to hold people accountable to the job that you've told them that they'll be doing, especially when it comes to paying other companies for work.
Yeah, mate, that was some of the best advice I got when we were trying to start pitching this charity for initial funding. My entire pitch was emotional.
Yeah.
And obviously telling the stories of the boys that are dead now, it's like you start fucking tearing up when you're giving this pitch. And a dude comes up to me after I did one of the pitches and he's like, mate, that was fucking heavy. However, if you want money, no one gives a fuck about veterans. Start telling them how much exposure you can get for them. I'm like, that, mate, I felt sick. I was like, that's fucking gross, but it's so true.
Yeah, it is.
There is. I've met a lot of people from some really big companies, and they have been big-hearted people, 100%. But they've got to pass it up the chain to their bean counters as well, and go, can we justify giving this charity a couple of $100,000? And the answer is not based on solving fucking world problems. The answer is based on how much exposure it's going to get our company. Business is a pretty gross game sometimes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think if we had known what we know now, and I'm assuming yourself would be exactly the same, if we do it all again and start from the beginning, how much money we'd save and how fast we'd get to the end state by knowing not to take everyone on face value and knowing when to hold people accountable and that kind of thing. And it's the worst thing when you see businesses that get completely burnt by a third-party company and then they're out of business and that's their dream done because someone else fucked them over. But it happens all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I still make some mistakes like that. That's why it's good to have a team around us that can kind of vet people as well to go. Because I don't think it'll ever leave me. I think I trust people too much up front and then get fucked over and then just put them on the kill list. And I'm like, it's probably never going to happen. But you just hate them forever. Yeah. And I'm like, it would have been so much easier if I had have just gone in like not trusting anyone. But at the same time, I'd rather lose money sometimes and still be human at the end of all this.
So Spike tried to teach me this. I mean, obviously he was junior. Remember Spike Milliken in the Bund? So he messaged me the other day. Actually, we have to get him on and see that dude has done backflips, mate. He's going to be a dad soon. Starting his plumbing. He's at middle of a plumbing apprenticeship. But when he got to the battalion, he was like, Max, he goes, do you know what? He goes, I'm sick of having to emotionally move all of these shit people from the good basket to the bad basket. So what I'm going to do is every person I meet is now going to be in the shit basket, and I'll handpick the ones emotionally that I can move. And I was like, mate, I should have taken that into business with me. Because at the moment I'm like, oh, no, they said they're really going to help us. Like, we go down to wherever you go, mate, whatever business you go into, and they're like, no, we really want to help. This is such an amazing cause. And then...
That's what sucks, isn't it? Being naive is sometimes good because you look through life with rosy glasses on, I guess, and then you get burnt so many times you become sour with other people's intentions. Yeah, which is shit. But I suppose you got to mitigate risk where you can, and then don't take everyone on face value, but have a hybrid of both where you don't believe everything everyone says, but you can't be too sour, and because no one want to work with you if you're also too sour. So
what's the balance point? That's a good thing, isn't it? What is the balance point between cynical and...
Mate, honestly, I think you just need a couple of people on your team and go, that dude, like good cop, bad cop, that guy's the one with the big heart. Yeah. That guy's going to cut through your shit straight away and fucking hate you forever. And you need it. And then we'll go away and go, all right, give me all that you hate him. Give me all the ideas that you want to bring forward and then see who wins. Yeah.
I think what you said before is having a sounding board is very important. Having friends, or even if someone's starting a business and they want to have family, they're starting by themselves, family around them as a sounding board, someone who's not so emotionally invested in the business also to throw ideas back and forward, to say, I think this is a great idea, but I'm also heavily emotionally invested in this business. What do you guys think? I think that would be a good thing as well for a lot of people. And we could have probably used that as well in the past. I think with Sarah and myself, we're both very emotionally invested in the business, so it's hard sometimes to get non-biased opinions and feedback unless it's from someone external to us, because we're both invested heavily.
Yeah. It's that emotional intelligence. It's like a fire chart, the slide scales. So emotional intelligence and proximity to the problem, they don't add up. As close as you get to the proximity to the problem, the further away you are with emotional intelligence and your ability to actually disconnect. Hence relationship breakdowns on the other side of it, where people are like, no, I know what I'm doing. This is different. I'm a special snowflake and this is what's going to happen. And everyone's like, bro, that is fucking retarded. Stop doing that. And you're like, no. Emotional intelligence directly proportionate to your proximity to the problem.
Yeah. Mate, next time you go and speak to your site, can you bring up that every conversation you can find a segue into relationship breakdown?
Yeah, so we told
every single conversation. We could be talking about building sandcastles, mate, and you're like, while we're on it...
Yeah, we've got to build them from solid foundations, don't you? Otherwise...
otherwise I will get washed away.
Yeah.
Left with a sunburnt back.
Mate, I tell you.
It's true, mate. That's what I think. But we need to capitalize on Ben. He's my brother. He's our CTO now.
Yeah.
Me and him are like chalk and cheese, mate. Yeah. He needs to come into this because he's been involved with every business I've had in the past. Yeah. And the first two, he was just too young. He was just jumping in board and going, let's just do whatever. He wasn't a sounding board. I was just a dickhead older brother telling him to come along for the ride. And then now he's gone away and spent time doing software engineering and kind of found something he loves. But it has turned him, doing a uni degree in software engineering has turned him into a fucking logical, stoic, stone face. Like I'll go in and throw an idea at him that I think is the sexiest idea ever. And he'll be like, no, that's shit, mate. And he'll run me through a quick process going, it's going to do this, 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 and this. I'm like, yes.
That's awesome, he can give a non-biased opinion where it's so hard to think logically when you're so emotionally invested in things. So I definitely had those problems over the years. But
100%.
Anyone you can use as a sounding board, use it.
So quickly shifting gears, China, have you had dramas with your supply?
No, not really. We had a few delays, and that was mainly due to logistical problems. Initially, with the COVID, getting things through customs and quarantine took a bit longer in the early half of the year, but not really. I think a lot of people aren't spending as much money in China at the moment as in terms of Western business. So we're actually finding that this year a lot of our manufacturing is getting done faster than normal. I think there's just less people, getting things produced over there. But
well, there's definitely nobody producing products in China from Victoria or Western Australia because their economy just went down the shithole.
Mate, it's also possible that there is no one in China because their COVID stats went. Like what? You got no more cases? No. As of yesterday, we had 80,000 a day, and now we've got 0. We are good. But your population's dropping.
Yeah, but if you don't test for it, you can't be. There's no positives to it.
The government controls the information and doesn't exist. But,
correct.
There's plenty of things in place with China. A few years ago, there was a free trade agreement signed between Australia and China, which means that we can get textile products coming in from China. So all of our sunglasses and swimwear and all of our postage bags produced, and we don't pay customs and duty tax on the import. So it's actually improved I know you can claim it back anyway as a deduction, but that's improved our margins and cash flow in the short term. And there's quite a few things out there with export grants through government agencies, Austrade and stuff. So there are, and even startup grants, there are quite a few through the government. So that are available if you go on business.gov or whatever and look for grants in any industry. Like we've got grants in the past for export goods where Austrade will try and reimburse costs that we've spent getting our products into North America and that kind of thing, because it helps the Australian economy. The more products that we're shipping overseas, the more money we're bringing into our Australian economy. supporting jobs in Australia, like with our logistics centre. So there are quite a few grants that are available through the government for profit businesses as well as non-for-profit. So it's always worth looking at as well for other ways to get startup cash if you need to as well.
Yeah, that's one that we've got to do a lot more of. I think Jess is going to start looking at grants and tenders as well. But grants, I went through, we took this through this startup accelerator, and there's a bunch of companies there that are like, oh yeah, we got 600 grand for this, 200 grand for this. I'm like, where the fuck are you getting all that free money from?
Yeah.
And it's just all industry development grants. And it's just something I get too excited about, like building product and marketing, that I forget about chasing money at the start. And then I hate the money chasing part.
Yeah, I know the grants are good to, I suppose, good for us to have. The majority of grants that we've been given in the past are not startup grants. They're kind of based on existing revenue. So you have to prove you have a product that works, prove that you can that you are selling overseas and contributing to the economy before the government will give you money, which is probably a good thing. You can't just, but like I said, there's different grants for different things. With COVID, I think there's more money being put around for people starting up businesses and stuff to try and stimulate the economy.
Yeah, well, there's only about 6 businesses left in Australia, so
there's one cafe left in Sydney.
Yeah.
So, mate, from being a digger in one area to being a fucking and I know, like, there's humble dudes, mate, and I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal, but you're one of Australia's elite soldiers in 2 Commando, to going on an international, extremely successful business. We know what you've done wrong, but what has set you up? Is there things in your military career that has taken you, or your personal self, where it's taught you either how to succeed or how to find the point where you're gonna fuck it and you can get yourself back on track? What are some tips that people can fucking hold themselves to?
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday, and how I suppose my time in the Defence Force has helped me with the business. And we spoke about risk taking as being a double-edged sword, which is definitely, the business wouldn't be to where it is now today if I didn't have that mentality to take risks, which has been good and a bad thing. But another thing I was thinking about as a positive of being a digger is that, often that you will be made to do things which could be double handling, or you see a clear path to doing something in half the time, which makes common sense to yourself. But because you have to do everything by the book, you don't have a choice but to do it by the book. And it's very frustrating to a lot of diggers, myself included, for many, many years. And I know when I got to Commandos, they try and encourage that thinking outside the box a little bit more, but there's still there's still the book, and there's still the PAM, and you still have to do everything as specified to a certain degree. With your own business, that frustration you can take out on running your business, because if you want to do something different, you can do it. You don't have to get permission from a hierarchy or whatever to implement a common sense change that you want to make within the business. So I think being a digger and being on the shit kicker level for so long, and having that frustration of having to do things by the book when you can see a clear path of doing it twice as fast and twice as efficient, has worked really well for myself in business, because I can see clear paths to common sense problems and I can implement them myself that afternoon. I don't have to, continue to put up with it or cop the frustrations. Just, this is what I want to do, I'm going to do it. And what do you think, Sato, about your own experiences with that and the frustrations of double handling within the army?
Yeah, I mean, the boys will probably think it's the opposite when I talk about this. I used to look at processes and SOPs and stuff, and I'm like, there's fucking better ways to do this, but I am not. It's the army. You don't bring it up because, I mean, we finally got the chance overseas with mortars. Me and Freo wrote like the equation to fix the fucking overlap where 2 grids didn't match up properly.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we had the opportunity to kind of write our own fix for a problem.
Yeah.
Where oftentimes in the army it's hard, and that's what I love most about business is like without sounding like a fuck it, I see the way things are done often and go, that's a puzzle. I can fucking put that puzzle together quicker if I do it this way. So I've turned into a bit of an anal process writing fucking Nazi, and the boys hate it. But I think we get to the point where it's only a matter of time, and you go finding better ways to do things. You don't want to do them all the time, because and I did fall into this trap a bit at the start, where I go, all right, there's a better way to do it, and then a month later you're like, yeah, I found another better way to do it. And you're like, so you do need to let things settle in and test and adjust and go, all right, let's test it that way for 3 months, for a quarter, and then let's improve it. But 100%, mate, the difference once you're out and being able to make the call and go, this is the best way to do it, let's change it right now, is fucking way better.
Yeah, there's a story, isn't there, between, and it's absolute bullshit, but the Yanks, they say, so this is the fucking Uncle Tony story, right? So the Yanks build their bases and they put their buildings down first, right? And then the grass grows and they leave it. And they let the diggers walk around, and wherever the diggers have worn footpads, then they put footpaths in. Instead of putting a footpath, you see it in one area, mate. The one area gym, like, don't walk on the fucking grass, and you see these well-worn footpads 3 feet to the right. You'll see a fucking concrete footpath. You're like, because somebody sits there that is completely disconnected from the truth and just goes, we're just going to put a footpath here. When everybody else on the ground level, the diggers that are the sucking dicks, and see the shortest distance.
Hey, whoa! What diggers are you hanging out with?
Well,
Keegan's like, take it out. What time was that? 1 hour, 8 minutes. Next talk to me, he's digging, sucking dicks.
You said you career, mate.
Resulting in a relationship breakdown.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there is crossover to that, and that is customer journey mapping. Like, if you build a website and you're like, then come back 3 months later and go, what's the click funnel that people are going through to get to the end state? It's like, that is the slow. Well, I mean, that's, as long as you're tracking it, it's still good, but that is the slow and expensive way to do it, because then you might have to cut half your website apart and rebuild it. Whereas if you do like the Yanks do and actually map it out with fucking a whiteboard and post-its, going, here's where I need them to get to, here's where they're starting, let's map out the best way and then build the product around that. That's a fucking way better way to do it.
But even the example you used before is, you love processes but because you can design your own process as a business owner. Do you know what I mean? Like, process, I agree. I love processes that we have within our business, but because I can control those processes. And I think that's the difference between being in the army and having your own business, is that you can control the direction that you want to go. And yeah, you might stuff up and make a mistake, but you test and adjust, like you said, and then try something else. And I think that's a big thing from having those frustrations for so long. Being able to just do it yourself is really fulfilling, I think.
I think there's a gap, mate, and the gap is that we're still in a process, especially in the Australian Army, I believe, and I've had conversations with some bigger dicks than me, but there used to be a process between World War, not much bigger, it's hard, mate. Between World War I and World War II, we need soldiers, so this is what we're going to do. This is why there's a big argument to extending the School of Infantry training from 3 months. We're like, hey, we've got all these extra stuff to teach them. We've got combat shooting, we've got room clearance, like we've got close quarter fight. Like, there's so much stuff we've got to teach these guys. It's not a Claymore, a Mag 58, a Minimi, and a Steyr anymore. When I went through Singo, it was a fucking 3-month course, and we learned fucking the basic stuff, right? The literal basic section attack, ambush, harbors, patrolling. Yeah. It's the same fucking course now, but boys have got to learn an extra 4 weapon systems, all these extra combat shooting while you're a singer and you're 17 years old and your head's already fucking exploding. But the process was, look, we just need to turn these guys over because we have a product there. And they say it's a vestige or a hangover from World War I, World War II, where we just got to turn people over, as opposed to being a tertiary education in warfare.
Yeah.
Fuck, I just lost where I was going.
You were talking about, I won't, I'll leave it.
Relationships.
Something. All right, while you don't go back to relationships. While you're remembering, mate, to tie all that together, no shit. I don't think.
Oh, I remember.
Military. Oh, yeah,
I remember, mate.
Hang on, I'll just stick a pin in mine.
Just hold. This is good, mate. This is fantastic. Ready?
Fucking better.
So the holdover from World War I and II, where ORs were subservient idiots that didn't speak English, and officers had an education and money, and they could pay their way into a higher position. We've somehow along the way got confused between being subservient or a subordinate. Being a subordinate and being a sycophant and subservient. Just because you're a lower rank now, there's no difference today with equality of outcome between you being an officer or being a digger. Most of the time, it's choice.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Most guys, you see most diggers are year 12 educated, could have gone to Duntrue and chose to be a digger. So the outcome's the same.
Yeah.
But the army's taken on this fact that you have to be a sycophant and you have to suck the dick of, that's a common trend of this podcast, of the guy above you, and you can't have a different opinion, right? But you can be a subordinate and have a different opinion. You can say, hey, no, boss, that's wrong, or there's a more efficient way to do it. But in the modern army, they're like, no, you can't fucking say that to me, mate. You're like, but I'm the one that's got to do the work, and I know there's a more efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
That was my my.
Well, that ties into the pin that I put in, man, and that's I don't think, like, when you're in the military, the processes are written by officers, and then when you get out, it's not that you're like, I'm the fucking boss now, I get to write the processes. Like, when you start a business, you are the boss and the diggers and the land stack all in one. Like, you're doing every job, but you're on the coalface, and if you're getting a process for anything and you're not including the guys on the coalface in the conversation, your process is destined to fail. Like, the American analogy is perfect. Like, someone builds a base. Don't get an architect to plan out where the paths are going to go. Let the diggers dictate, because they're the ones fucking walking on it. And if they don't like it, diggers are going to find a way around it to do what they want to do anyway. And your process is null and void. And when you get out and you start your own business, you're writing processes, yes, as the dude who has to implement them for the people below him as your company grows. But I mean, if you do start to scale up and you at the top keep writing new processes without bringing the diggers or the dudes in the coalface into the conversation, your processes aren't going to be efficient or effective. I mean, me and Max drew this as a kind of similar, like it was a pyramid. We had politicians at the top, officers in the middle, diggers at the bottom. We are currently trying to solve, and this is about problem solving, it's a little bit different, but trying to solve a problem that is highly, the numbers are mostly in the OR category. Yeah, a few officers have got, there's been a few officer suicides, but the volume is at the bottom. So if you're trying to solve a problem to help a demographic at the bottom, they've got to have a fucking seat at the table. Otherwise, we get all these ESOs that are retired generals or politicians into a fucking an echo chamber or a loop where you go, let's solve a problem. The guy above me said it's sick, so it must be sick. We get heaps of money. It goes around in circle. Everyone's forgotten that the fucking end user is the guy on the bottom. Yeah. They're the ones that need to be involved in what are the metrics for success, what are the paths we're going to take, and what are the processes we're going to use to solve this problem. You need the people in there that are on the coalface.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it's, and the same principle applies in business. You know, like, how much more efficient would the Army be and the Defence Force in general if they took, you know, what was the diggers were saying on the ground for more efficient ways to solve problems. They took that on board without palming them off. How much more efficient would the Defence Force be? How much more efficient would the government be? But the thing is, we can't really affect change in that, but we can affect change in our own business. But yeah.
100%. Yeah, I guess the takeaway that for anyone starting business is when you do scale it and get it massive, don't forget to include your fucking 100,000 employees on the factory floor in the process mapping.
Yeah, well, what's that? Is it Amazon where Jeff Bezos makes the majority of the managers sit and work in the roles of all of the, I suppose, the subordinates, so they understand. I think it's Amazon. When they make decisions, they have to work in that role for a couple of weeks a year before they're allowed to make decisions, I suppose, in their managerial point of view, because they understand how it works on the ground. And that's so, you know, I'm pretty sure it is Amazon, and they're one of the most successful companies on the planet, you know.
Well, it's McDonald's as well. McDonald's, in order to buy a McDonald's franchise, you have to work in it as an employee for a year. Yeah. And I mean, this cycle's full circle back to bringing in consultants. Like, if you're going to bring in a consultant who knows fuck all about your business to consult on how to make your business more efficient, there will be some generic things that they can bring to the table and go, if you can cut costs here, and here. But if they're going to come in and help you build new process, they need to be working in your business from the ground up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I guess looking that back to our time in the defence force, that's probably, for me, I see it as a positive thing in working as a digger. And I'm glad I was a digger rather than an officer. And like you said, Max, it was a choice for all of us to go in as diggers because that's what we wanted to do. Not because we weren't intelligent enough to be officers, it's because we didn't want to. And there is the mentality, like you said, that officers are the only ones that can run businesses, and that's not true. And diggers can, and the majority of guys that do have successful businesses are, especially these days, diggers, because a lot of them are highly intelligent and they know what they want and they know how to problem solve very well. And I think guys don't give themselves enough credit to think that they can't achieve what they want to, and so they don't ever try. And I think you always have to give it a shot. The same with doing selection. I could have always just not had a crack, but I did. And if you don't have a crack, you're not going to know. It's the same with business.
I think the selection piece, mate. I think the biggest advice from an unsuccessful person is if you don't second guess yourself, don't go. Because we had a big conversation with boys who were my close mates, and like, mate, you can't do it, you won't finish it. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. But as soon as you put your app in, the decision's out of your fucking hands, and then it goes from second guessing and doubting. Put your app in, and then now you've got to know and fucking move forward.
Yeah, 100%. Because at the end of the day, that it's if you don't have a shot, and if you're too concerned about the opinions of other people, you're never going to succeed in anything. So I don't really give a shit. If someone else wants to, and we had the same thing with the business. Plenty of people thought it wasn't going to succeed and make comments and comments like that. And I use that as fuel to make it successful. And even when we're on the verge of maybe we think this isn't going to work, push through that. And then now I just rub it in their faces, because those kind of people you don't want as friends. They're not constructive people. And you take that, don't let it get you down, I guess. Use it as fuel to prove them wrong, whether it's going for having a shot at selection or whether it's having a shot at a business.
Oh, mate, there's no more powerful motivator than trying to prove people wrong. Yeah. As long as you got to back yourself, though. You can't just go, hey, I'm going to prove everyone wrong, and then put in no effort, and then you're like, proved them all right.
I want to know. So, from somebody who did everything wrong, and my negative chat, if you could have heard my internal dialogue on selection, was, I want to quit. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. Like from the fucking start, mate. I just didn't, because I couldn't be fucked doing the paperwork, which was one signature.
Too lazy to quit.
I'm like, too lazy. But did you? So I mean, so you hear about Goggins, and he's like, yeah, just fucking want to eat it. But there are people like, so Schwebsy is a fucking animal. The dude doesn't. I don't think he feels pain. He enjoys hurting himself. Sam Fowle used to fucking. He used to just enjoy hurting himself. Yeah. Were there people that have like? What was your internal dialogue while you were going through? Was there? I mean, the points of ups and downs, or consistent?
No, it was consistently shit. The entire time, unfortunately, yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to end it the entire time. It's like and then even once you do finish your lesson, you got the rest of the year on Rio where you can get kicked off at any time. And it's very stressful. It plays on your mind a lot. And plenty times, I think the main thought going through my head the entire time I was on selection was just, I want this to be done. But I suppose you just got to push through it. It's the only way to get through it, really. But everyone thinks that, and I don't know. My feeling is that if someone says they didn't feel like they wanted to pull off on selection, if they didn't feel that, I think that's a lie, because everyone wants to pull off.
No,
not enjoyable at all.
No.
Well, they do it to make you break. I think there's a breaking point. I think everybody breaks on selection to a point mentally, and people who have never failed in life struggle more because they're like, oh, I shouldn't feel like this. People who have been in the gutter and failed at everything, they're like, oh, I know where this is. I'll pick myself up. I'm going to cry like a schoolgirl, and then I'm going to go for a bit of a walk, mate. Or you're just an extreme athlete and you just kill it. Whatever.
That's. I mean, there's a crossover there to business too. Like, there's no such thing as a business who just has fucking clear skies from day one. And the military does help with resilience. It gives you heaps of fucking lessons learned and resilience. Going, yeah, right. This is gonna be shit for a bit. For the next month or the next week, whatever it is, this is gonna be fucking shit. Just deal with it.
Well,
whereas a lot.
Yeah. 100%. When I was putting down some points yesterday and relating my time in the army to business, that's one of my main points was resilience and mental toughness. Learning those skills in the army as an infantry, as a grunt, and as a commando. I think without the resilience, I wouldn't have gotten through having a business because, yeah, you're not out. I suppose your life's not on the line when you've got a business, but sometimes it can be worse. I think because of the financial implications and the stress that never ends. At least I suppose when you're in Afghanistan, you're on patrol, you can come back and you can just chill out for a little while. But with a business, it's kind of always playing on your mind, especially during the stressful times. And without that mental toughness and resilience, I don't think that we would have gotten through half of the stuff that we've done in the business. I don't know what about yourself, Sutter. I imagine.
Yeah, mate, I 1,000% agree. I mean, the first business I had that. It was kind of smooth sailing for the first 6 to 12 months, and then obviously bad staffing decisions cost me the whole first business when we put the wrong person in charge of it. But mate, I couldn't agree more. The stuff you learn in the military, whether you're actually paying attention or not, with resilience is definitely a huge asset. And that's something young diggers don't. You leave the military and they're like, oh, what's your skill set? And they're looking for boxes to tick to RPL it over to uni or TAFE. And it's like, mate, I know how to lead people. I know how to talk to dudes around me and build culture. And I know how to just fucking grit through shit. That's an asset to start in your own business, big time.
Yeah. And that's something I was thinking about as well yesterday. And a lot of guys, myself included, that if you can't RPL something, a skill set that you had in the army, you think that you're not worth anything in the civilian sector, but it's completely not true because you can't put a price on the mental toughness and resilience that you learn in the army and defence force. But applying that to business is the difference between success and failure. And so many things, just because you can't, I suppose RPL everything you learn as a grunt or as a commander or whatever into a civilian qualification, it doesn't mean that you're not worth your weight. You know what I mean? Like I think it's completely. You can't put a price on that toughness that you learn. That will get you through the tough times in business. Problem solving, thinking on the spot, and that kind of thing. I think is very important for business.
100%.
And another, it goes back to I suppose the mentality of a lot of people that think they're not good enough for starting a business, especially as a digger, is that you don't need to have a degree, you don't have to go to uni, you don't have to be an officer to start a business. Anyone can start a business, and you can learn as long as you're willing to learn and problem solve and test and adjust and have the toughness to push it out. Anyone can do it,
mate. And it's not just anyone. Like, I don't want to go, all right, you're an officer, you're a digger, so you should do this, you should do that, because everybody's fucking different and everyone's got their own individual skill sets. But generically, the training you get as an officer, you're far better suited to go and do an MBA and try and get a job in someone else's company.
Yeah.
The training you get as a digger, you are far better off. Well, I mean, I'm probably biased from ORs looking up, but ORs could potentially do both because you go to uni, they're going to teach you all those skills anyway. But to start, like to launch a startup, you need to wear 7 hats and fucking work. And that is not a common skill set for officers. Not all of them anyway. There is some, obviously, like I said, there's unique cases and outliers of dudes who just love getting their hands dirty and getting the grunt work done. But it's not common. And that's...
I guess the point that I was more getting at is that guys don't have the self-confidence, especially as diggers, and I was the same, is that I always thought I wasn't suited to running a large company or a business that could do it up because I didn't finish year 12, I don't have a degree, I don't have an MBA, but that's just not having the confidence in yourself to do it. And I think that's where, especially diggers, that even if you're leaving the army as a private or defence force as a digger, it doesn't matter. Like everything that I've learned, and I'm sure you do the same with everything you learn with marketing and e-commerce and the software side of things, you can teach yourself online. You know, YouTube is a plethora of knowledge, and you can learn everything that you can in a uni degree, but you only need to learn specifically what you need to learn, rather than, you know, half the stuff that you learn at uni might not be relevant to an e-commerce business, for example. So I can learn specifically what I need to learn online. It's free, and then I can implement that straight away. And you just need to be willing to learn and to have confidence in yourself.
Mate, 100%. Mark, so to write a textbook or to write a course outline for a university, like the information has to be a minimum of 5 years old. It's got to be written by someone, approved by a bunch of people, spat out and taught to everyone. And if you're using five-year-old marketing advice in a business these days, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Like you need anything marketing related in the digital space, you need to be updating your skill set every 3 months at the latest, or at the least. Going to do degrees. I mean, there's some perfect pathways where you want to go to uni, do a degree. But marketing and digital kind of stuff, digital sales is definitely not one of them. Well, that needs to be self-taught.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, I did start a small Cert 4 in business management before we started this business, and it's funny you say that because the majority of the stuff in that course is completely not relevant to e-commerce. They had nothing about cloud-based software, cloud-based accounting, or didn't even cover Facebook or Instagram marketing. You know what I mean? And this is supposed to be a business management course to get out there and run your own business, but none of it was relevant. You know, a couple of the things in terms of reading a profit and loss statement were relevant. They're never going to change. The principles of that are the same, but everything else was completely irrelevant to what I learned. So I completely agree. You're going to find better information. Yeah, unless you want to get a degree and work for someone else, that's awesome. But if you want to start your own business, my opinion is to get out there and learn. You don't need a degree to start a business, and you have just be confident in yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Perfect time for a quick plug on Inno Club. So we're actually starting businesses. Like there is plenty of courses out there that are really quick, kind of weekend or a couple of weeks. Or the best ones in the tech space are tech accelerators, where they'll run you through like how to fail your business, how to find out whether your idea is dog shit or not, then how to kind of do a rapid business validation and growth plan without writing a 45-page business plan and without going to get a bank loan. And I mean, there is a place for that, but most of that business model is a dinosaur. So Inno Clubs is one that we're kind of working with a little bit. One of the RSLs down is backed it for the young boys who want to get out and start their own business. It's like a six days, so 3 weekends in a row they run the course, and it's all funded by the RSL.
Yeah,
that was enough plug on it.
Yeah, you couldn't even see it. You couldn't feel it. It just slid straight.
It just felt natural.
But there's Shannon Sedgwick was sponsored. We're also sponsored by Mother. Chop that in and put it on. So no.
You're still drinking that shit, mate.
Ex-Ferrari dude, Shannon Sedgwick. He's a successful digger that got out. And is high corporate Sydney and just wants to fucking help people, mate. And yourself as well is testament to the fact of success as a digger that just went, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm fucking doing it and I'm going to learn. Yeah. And your business is testament to that, mate. Yeah. So these sort of people we're going to try and draw in and have this wealth of knowledge from lived experience guys that want to teach dudes and be like, you could fucking do it.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, there are, the tech accelerator thing is awesome. That's such a cool thing. I would love to have done something like that. And you learn so much by doing that. You know, we went to a few retail global conferences in the Gold Coast when we first started our business, and that was really good to be around like-minded people as well. Now it's quite specific to e-commerce, but there's also mentorship programs that people can get for free, like successful business owners. You know, once they get a bit older, I guess, and want to just mentor other people, you can get it for free without even paying. We also got a lot of knowledge in the early days of our business too. We were approaching investors, and at the time we were looking for investment. We didn't move forward with it because we didn't want to give up equity in our company. But I learned a lot of knowledge by talking to these investors because, comparing them to, say, a consultant who spent $20,000+ with, the investors were free, but because they had a potential financial vested interest in our company, they were going over the numbers and everything in a fight with a fine-tooth comb. And I learned more talking to investors looking to get investment for our company for free than we got out of our talking to a consultant that worked for our company for 6 months.
I think that's the model that people. Isn't that the model that's sort of going around at the moment? People don't want to hear from doctors and lawyers. Yes, the information is always factually true, but they want to learn from people who've done it. And investors have done it because they've generally gone through growing their own businesses, and now they're trying to expand and scale their own personal life, business life.
Yeah, completely. And some of the best knowledge that we've got has come from them, completely free. But like I said, online you can find anything, find information on anything. Information is free online.
So what's next, mate? If you're not chasing investments, are you just going to keep organically growing, or?
Well, I suppose we've got to head around the numbers and our side of, I suppose, the costs and everything associated with our business now that I guess we could always grow the business 10 times faster with an investment, but there's the trade-off of as we can completely control our own company now, we can do what we want with it. We're not accountable to someone else, and there'll be pros and cons with both. So for now, we're just going to continue as we have been, still growing, at a decent pace, but limited to our cash flow and how much money I suppose we have coming in. But we'll see what the future holds. We're not going to rule out selling the company or potentially getting an investment down the track, but we both enjoy working on it on our own terms for now. And
so where's the decision point for going public? Like, is that a thing?
You want the inside track on an IPO? Yeah, we'll keep that one quiet, mate.
We'll keep it quiet, mate. Yeah.
If we were to get investment, it would just be a private investor, so we wouldn't be looking at going public. I think none of those investors would be looking to go public until you're doing well over 100 million or more a year, and we're not there yet. So, but in saying that, a few of the conferences we've been to over the years, and one business owner, Rustin Kogan, we've seen a few times speak in person, has been a big inspiration for us, and we've been to talks with him before he had owned a public company, and then now afterwards owning Kogan.com as a publicly traded company. It's really cool to see the journey that he's been on and the risks that he's taken, and listen to him talk, and we can relate to a lot of those things that he's been through with a completely different business. But then to see the end state and where he's gotten to with his company is a big inspiration. I think it's always good to have someone to look up to in business sense, I guess.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, mentors in business is fucking one thing that I needed way more when I was starting out, and that's if someone comes to me and says, what's the one? If you got one takeaway to give to young blokes when they're starting, so get a good mentor to fill in all of the blank, because most of your knowledge when you're starting out is about 1% of what you need, and the mentors will help you fill out the rest. Yeah, well, not all of it, but as much as possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess starting points for anyone that is looking to start a business, for myself, every day, Sarah and I will go through list making, I suppose, routine. We'll make a list of things that we want to do for the day. You can use software like Asana or programs to do that. We also find satisfaction just writing down every day a list of things and tasks that we want to do, and then making sure we achieve some of them. If we don't, they roll into the task for the next day, and always having a short-term goal, a medium-term goal, and a long-term goal with the business and your lifestyle, what you want to achieve, and then keeping yourself accountable on a daily basis to make sure you're heading in the right direction for that. So I suppose for anyone that is looking to start a business, I would say write down your own ideas every day on a daily basis, research everything, because information is free online. Never go in blind. I'd say look for ways to mitigate risk and have a plan for everything you're doing. You do have to take risks, but like I said earlier on, what we've learned is you can't make your risks too big, otherwise you can be out of business pretty quickly. And I love taking risks, but I've had to learn to reel that in a bit over the years, because as the business grows bigger and bigger, the stakes get higher, and next thing you know, your house can be on the line because you're buying 20,000 bikinis and it's a couple $100,000. So looking for ways to mitigate risk and having a plan. Like in the army, you have branch plans for everything. You have a scenario and a plan on how to execute. And these are things that you learn in Sub 1 JLC, and you don't even realize how you can apply it to business. Having a plan and being able to execute that. And that's all business is, really. And it just goes back to what I was saying before, that guys not having enough confidence in themselves. But you've done JLC or you've done time as a digger, chances are you have skills and you have what it takes to start a business, because you know what needs to be done to solve problems. Testing and trying new ideas, learning from your mistakes, and don't repeat the same mistake. That's not to say what didn't work now isn't going to work in 6 months' time. We always retest things that, like we were talking about before with Amazon Prime, Amazon Fulfillment Center. That didn't work for us 3 years ago. It's not to say we won't try it again, because they could have changed the way they're doing things and it will work again. So you need to constantly try and test and adjust, and then revisit things that perhaps didn't work in the past but might work in the future. And I think finding a business that you can grow around your passions is a big thing. I'm not so passionate about bikinis, but I'm passionate about numbers and analytics and marketing, and that's where my passion lies. And I can, because at the end of the day, when times are tough with the business, my opinion is passion is the only thing that's going to get you through, with resilience. And if you're running a business that you're not completely passionate about, you're pretty more likely to throw in the towel when things get tough.
Yeah. If you start a business to get rich, you're fucked from day one. If your goal is to get money and you're not passionate about any of it, then you are fucked.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I reckon I could get passionate about your business pretty quick too, mate. I've seen your website. Wouldn't be hard.
It'd be a tough job to rock up to. Like, right, what do we got to do today? We got to trial some stock. Like, okay.
Mate, next time you're doing your photo shoot for your summer line, I might have to make a trip up the corner.
All the creeps hanging out in the bushes. I don't know about
that.
Well, mate, it's been sick to get you on, dude, and to speak to you again. I think we'll have to keep you on as one of the, if you're keen, to be one of the, come on and drop some knowledge bombs in the business space for the listeners, and we'll catch up with you. Dave's right next to you, and we'll catch up after this. So we'll chat to you soon, bro. Thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. And,
cheers, mate.
awesome. Do another catch up soon.